You can memorize hundreds of IELTS answers, learn advanced vocabulary, and still sound unnatural. That's the hidden difference between a good IELTS score and a Band 8+ performance. Real high-level speakers don't sound like robots repeating model answers. They sound relaxed, flexible, and genuinely conversational. In today's episode of Learn English Lab, we'll uncover what examiners actually hear in top-scoring responses, the subtle mistakes that make fluent students sound rehearsed, and the powerful speaking techniques that instantly make your English sound more natural and confident. If you want to stop sounding like you studied English and start sounding like you truly use it, this episode could change the way you prepare for IELTS forever.
I mean, it really is a profound shift to perspective. We're basically moving entirely away from this concept of language as just some rigid, punishing test.
Right. It's not just checking boxes on a rubric.
Absolutely. We have to reframe it as a living, breathing, deeply psychological tool.
Yeah, and that is the core mission of our deep dive today. We're looking at this fascinating breakdown of the actual mechanics behind natural human communication.
Which is so much deeper than just test prep.
Oh, undeniably. We are not just talking about how to pass a standardized test, though. I mean, the strategies we're exploring today will absolutely skyrocket your ability to do that.
For sure.
But we're really talking about how to fundamentally rewire your brain's approach to spoken English so that you stop sounding like a walking dictionary and start sounding like, well, a real human being having a conversation.
What's fascinating here is that high-level language proficiency is actually a complete illusion when it lacks humanity.
Not a complete illusion.
Without a doubt. Assessors and linguists, they see this constantly. You have students who have mastered every grammar book on the shelf, right? They possess this incredibly vast, intimidating vocabulary.
The ones who know words I don't even use in my native language.
Yes. But then, the moment they open their mouths, the listener's brain immediately registers a disconnect. It feels mechanical, uncanny almost.
Like an AI trying to mimic a human.
Spot on. So today, we're going to deconstruct those subtle, everyday habits that separate that robotic memorization from true, effortless fluency.
I love that. Okay, let's unpack this from the very beginning. We just promised you, the listener, that we're going to help you stop sounding like a robot.
A very noble goal.
Right. But the logical first question is, what should you sound like? Because I feel like a lot of people learning a language say, I just want to sound like a native speaker.
Oh, I hear that all the time.
But what does that actually mean? Because there's this massive, I don't know, Hollywood-driven misconception out there about what native-like fluency even entails.
There is, without a doubt, a huge misunderstanding there. When a student says they want to sound like a native speaker, they frequently have this exaggerated caricature playing in their heads.
Like they need to be dropping heavy slang into every single sentence.
Right. They think they need to speak at a blistering speed, throwing out incredibly informal idioms every 5 seconds, like some fast-talking character in a sitcom.
Like it's raining cats and dogs, bro, so I'm feeling under the weather.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, absolutely. And if you analyze transcripts of actual educated native speakers in professional or semi-formal settings, that is not what native level speaking looks like at all.
No, it just sounds bizarre in an exam room or, you know, a business meeting. It feels like you're wearing a costume.
It feels incredibly performative. The true pillars of high-level speaking, the things that actually score the highest marks, are not about slang. They are about being natural, being clear, and being flexible.
Flexibility, that's the key, isn't it?
Is the ultimate metric of mastery. It's your ability to adapt your language to the specific context of the situation.
Meaning you can express your ideas smoothly without sounding like you're frantically reading from an invisible teleprompter.
Spot on. It means your ideas flow logically, and your vocabulary accurately reflects the nuance of your meaning, rather than just showing off how many multisyllabic words you memorized this week.
Which is an interesting point because there is this term that gets thrown around a lot in linguistic assessments, lexical resource.
Yes, the dreaded lexical resource.
Now, I have an analogy for this, but I might need your help refining it. I was thinking that using advanced vocabulary is a lot like using strong spices in cooking.
Oh, I like where this is going.
Right, like if you understand the flavor profile of the dish you're making, a pinch of saffron or a dash of cumin elevates the entire meal.
It's beautiful.
But what I see a lot of learners do is just grab a handful of every fancy spice they own and throw them in randomly like confetti.
That is a wonderful analogy, but let's take it a step further and look at the mechanics of why the confetti approach ruins the dish.
Yeah, break it down for me.
It really comes down to cognitive load for the listener. When a speaker treats high-level vocabulary like confetti, thinking, oh, if I just sprinkle enough complex words into my answer, the assessor will be blown away.
They actually do the opposite, right?
They force the listener's brain to work overtime. The listener has to constantly pause and decode why this highly unusual, archaic word was just dropped into a sentence about a trip to the grocery store.
That makes total sense. You're making them work too hard.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Native-like speakers use lexical resource with immense restraint and purpose. They use varied and specific vocabulary to make their meaning crystal clear, not just to decorate their sentences.
Can we look at the classic examples that highlight this?
Let's do it.
So, think about a situation where someone is asked a simple question about technology and they give this robotic answer. I like technology because it is very useful and very convenient.
Now, analyze that sentence. Is there anything grammatically incorrect about it?
No, nothing at all. I mean, it's totally fine on paper, but it feels incredibly flat when spoken aloud. It feels like a placeholder sentence you'd find in like a beginner's workbook.
It is entirely accurate, but it is utterly devoid of human personality. It's the verbal equivalent of a gray, windowless room.
Wow, harsh but true.
Now, contrast that with the native, alternative linguists point to. I'm quite into tech because it saves time, and honestly, it makes daily life a lot less stressful.
Oh, wow. That breathes. It feels like a person actually talking to me. But why? What is the machinery working beneath those words?
Let's break down the psychological impact of that phrasing. First, notice the opening. I'm quite into tech instead of I like technology.
It's a bit more casual.
It is slightly more colloquial. It uses a phrasal verb, but it is still perfectly acceptable and highly natural. But the real linguistic magic happens in the reasoning.
The saves time part.
Yes. Instead of using broad, generic dictionary definition adjectives like useful and convenient, which are those confetti words students throw in when they are panicking, the speaker gives specific, tangible human benefits.
Right. It saves time. It makes daily life a lot less stressful.
Exactly. I mean, spot on.
Less stressful conveys an actual human emotion. It maps to a universal survival mechanism, right? We all want to avoid stress.
We undeniably do.
It tells the listener something intimate about the speaker's lived experience. Convenient is just a concept in a dictionary. Less stressful is a shared human reality.
Unquestionably. And notice the word honestly tucked in there as well.
Yeah.
And honestly, it makes daily life a lot less stressful.
Yeah, that's a great little addition.
That tiny two-syllable addition is doing massive psychological heavy lifting. It creates an immediate conversational bond with the listener. It signals authenticity and vulnerability.
Because they're letting you in on a secret, almost.
Yes. The speaker isn't forcing fancy academic words where they don't belong. They're using accurate, varied phrases to clearly communicate a genuine feeling. That is the true definition of lexical resource.
It's about emotional accuracy as much as dictionary accuracy. Okay, I think I have a firm grasp on the ingredients now. I need words that convey my actual reality.
Not just words that sound impressive.
Right. But here is my struggle. Having a pantry full of great, emotionally resonant ingredients is completely useless if I don't know how to mix them together smoothly.
The mixing is where it usually falls apart.
Yeah, if I just stack good words next to each other, I still sound like a robot. So what is the glue? How do these ideas actually flow together?
You are hitting on the specific point where so many highly advanced learners stumble. The connective tissue of fluency.
Connective tissue.
They possess the vocabulary. They have mastered the complex grammar structures. But the way they link their thoughts together sounds incredibly mechanical. When we analyze transcripts of lower scoring fluency, the most glaring issue is the reliance on unnatural discourse markers.
Discourse markers, those are the little signpost words we use to organize our speech, right? Like, however, or therefore.
Correct. And the most common, most destructive trap is what we call robotic sequencing. It is a direct result of how we are taught in school.
Uh-oh. What does it sound like?
Listen to this painfully common example. Firstly, I like remote work. Secondly, it is comfortable. Thirdly, it saves time.
Oh, wow. Hearing that out loud, it physically hurts a little.
It's tough, right?
It literally sounds like someone reading a bulleted list off a PowerPoint slide during a corporate presentation. It completely shatters the illusion of a conversation.
It is so rigid. And the tragic part is, millions of students are actively taught to speak this way.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. They are taught traditional formal essay structures, firstly. Secondly, in conclusion, and they try to awkwardly force that written architecture into a spoken conversation.
But human beings simply do not talk like that when they are relaxed.
Never. Think about the cognitive load on the listener again. When you say firstly, secondly, thirdly, you are building a staircase of isolated points.
Okay, a staircase.
The listener has to mentally stop at each step and hold that isolated point in their working memory. It is exhausting.
So how do we dismantle that staircase? What does a natural low cognitive load alternative look like?
Instead of a staircase, you want to build a river. You want the ideas to cascade into one another.
A river, I like that.
Instead of the firstly, secondly, thirdly march, a highly fluent approach sounds like this. What I like most about remote work is the flexibility. On top of that, I don't waste hours commuting, so I have more energy for actual work.
Oh, that flows incredibly well.
Yep.
What I like most instantly prioritizes the information for me. It tells my brain what the main point is.
It sets the direction of the river.
And then on top of that, that feels entirely different from secondly.
It truly is. On top of that, creates a seamless forward momentum. It builds on the previous thought organically, implying that the benefits are stacking up naturally.
Rather than just slapping a sterile number on the next point.
Undeniably. And then they use the word so to connect the lack of commuting to the final emotional benefit, having more energy. The ideas flow into one another. There are no hard cognitive stops.
It is a river of thought. Now, I want to play devil's advocate here for a second regarding another aspect of this connective tissue.
Go for it.
We've established how to link ideas, but I've also read a lot about hedging language, the practice of softening your opinions.
Hedging.
Yes.
Yeah.
If I'm sitting in a high-stakes exam room, or, if I'm defending a project in a business meeting, doesn't softening my opinion make me look weak?
That's a very common concern.
Right. Doesn't it make me sound unsure of myself?
Yeah.
Shouldn't a confident, fluent speaker be absolute and authoritative in their statements?
This raises an important question, and it is a very understandable psychological block for learners. We have been conditioned to confuse absolute certainty with confidence.
Interesting.
But in the realm of high-level academic, professional, or analytical communication, making sweeping, absolute statements actually achieves the opposite effect.
Really?
Yes, it makes you sound less sophisticated. It makes your worldview appear simplistic and rigid.
That feels counterintuitive. Why does certainty make me sound less sophisticated?
Because absolute certainty triggers a defensive mechanism in the listener's brain. Let's use an example regarding artificial intelligence.
Okay.
The robotic absolute answer is AI is bad for education.
It's very definitive. Boom, done. No room for argument.
And that is the problem. No room for argument. When you declare AI is bad, the listener's brain instinctively rebels. They instantly start thinking of all the ways AI might actually be good.
Oh, right. You've basically picked a fight.
You have shut down the conversation rather than opening it up. You've presented a highly debatable topic as an undeniable fact, which shows a lack of analytical depth.
So what's the alternative?
Contrast that absolute wall with a nuanced, hedged approach.
Right.
I wouldn't say AI is entirely bad for education, but I do think it can become a problem if students depend on it too much.
Ooh. Okay, I feel the difference there. It doesn't sound weak at all. It actually sounds significantly smarter and much more grounded.
Because it demonstrates critical, mature thinking. Hedging language phrases like, I wouldn't say entirely, can become if these are tools of precision.
Not signs of weakness.
Not at all. They are signs of intellectual agility. They show the assessor that you understand the immense complexity of the topic. You are capable of seeing the gray areas.
You are inviting the listener into a shared exploration of an idea.
Spot on. A truly confident speaker doesn't need to shout absolutes to prove they are right. They can navigate the nuances and conditions of a topic with total ease.
That is a massive paradigm shift. Fluency is not about knowing the absolute truth. It is about showing you have the linguistic and cognitive tools to explore a complicated, messy reality.
Which brings us to another messy reality.
Oh, let's talk about those moments when our brain just completely stalls out.
The panic moments.
I know everyone listening can relate to the universal dread of being asked a question, starting a great sentence, and suddenly forgetting a crucial word.
Your mind goes totally blank.
Yes, and you resort to what I call the panic fillers. Yes, I think it is an agonizing feeling.
It is an agonizing feeling, but we need to normalize it because it is a profoundly human experience. The issue you are facing in an assessment isn't that you paused.
It isn't.
No, the issue is how you chose to fill that pause. Linguists make a highly critical distinction between panic millers and natural fillers.
Tell me the difference, because it feels like my brain is actively betraying me in those moments.
In a way, it is. When you are under the pressure of an exam, your amygdala, the fear center of your brain, can easily get triggered.
Fight or flight.
Exactly. When it spikes, it releases cortisol, which actually impairs the functioning of your prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for complex language retrieval.
Oh, wow. So you literally physically lose access to your vocabulary.
You do. Panic fillers, the ums and us, are the sound of your brain short-circuiting. They signal to the listener, I am lost, my cognitive load has exceeded its limit, and I am terrified.
That explains so much. So how do native speakers handle that? Because native speakers pause and forget words all the time.
Absolutely, they do. They need time to think, too.
Yeah.
The fundamental difference is they use natural fillers to buy that cognitive time gracefully, without signaling panic.
What does that sound like?
Instead of a rapid-fire string of ums, they deploy a structured phrase that acts as an off-ramp for the pressure. They might look up and say, let me think for a second. Yeah, I'd probably say digital payments have completely changed the way I shop.
Let me think for a second. It is almost breathtakingly transparent. You are literally just narrating your internal process to the listener.
You are.
You're telling them exactly what you were doing, but it sounds incredibly fluent.
It is the absolute pinnacle of fluency. It shows you are in total control of the conversational dynamic, even when your prefrontal cortex is scrambling to find an idea.
That is so empowering.
The core takeaway from this section of our deep dive is vital. Native-like does not mean perfect. It means human. Pausing is human. Changing your mind mid-sentence is human.
What matters is having the connective language to make those human moments sound intentional, relaxed, and managed.
You nailed it.
Okay, so we have gathered our ingredients. We know we need accurate, emotionally resonant vocabulary instead of confetti. We've discussed the mixing techniques, building a river, hedging our bets, and using natural fillers.
We have the foundation.
But if we want to bake the whole cake, we need a recipe. We need to know how to structure a longer narrative. If I am asked to speak for 2 minutes straight, how do I not get completely lost in my own thoughts?
This brings us to the architecture of a perfect answer. When analyzing top-tier conversationalists, a very specific, incredibly elegant pattern emerges.
I am taking notes.
It is highly practical, particularly when you are asked to speak at length. We can distill it into a 3-part formula: point, expand, reflect, or PER.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. When I was looking at this PER formula, it struck me that this isn't just some artificial language trick invented for a test.
Not at all.
This formula is just classic, ancient storytelling. It is the fundamental way human beings have shared information around campfires for thousands of years. You have the hook, which is your point. You have the body, or evidence, which is your expand. And you have the moral of the story, which is your reflect.
That is a brilliant and highly accurate way to conceptualize it. If you view your answer not as a test response, but as a micro-story you are gifting to the listener, it naturally becomes more engaging.
It totally shifts the dynamic.
It does. The PER formula works beautifully for those extended speaking tasks, but it's also highly effective for shorter analytical questions. It gives your brain a predictable roadmap, so you never find yourself rambling, looking at the ceiling, and wondering, how on earth do I end this sentence?
Let's actually deconstruct a master example of this, because seeing the PER formula in action is incredibly clarifying.
Let's walk through it.
Imagine the prompt is, describe a piece of technology that has changed your daily life recently. I'll read the opening. The point phase. The speaker begins. A piece of technology that has had a huge impact on my daily life is an AI note-taking app I started using a few months ago.
Let's pause right there and analyze the mechanics. Why is that opening so highly effective?
Because they just answer the question directly.
Absolutely. There is zero ambiguity. Immediate, undeniable clarity. The speaker didn't start with a broad, philosophical, rambling preamble about how technology is rapidly changing the modern landscape of the 21st century.
Yeah, I've heard so many of those.
They didn't beat around the bush trying to sound grand. They answered the prompt directly, comprehensively, in the very first breath. They established the foundation, the hook, as you called it.
The listener's brain is now perfectly primed. It knows what the rest of the speech is going to be about.
It anchors the listener so they don't have to guess where we are going.
Okay, let's move to the middle section, the expand phase. The speaker continues. At first, I downloaded it just to organize work tasks, but it quickly became part of my routine. I use it to summarize articles, plan my week, and even collect ideas when I'm too tired to write properly. What I really like is that it reduces mental clutter. Instead of trying to remember everything, I can capture ideas straight away and come back to them later.
This is where the answer truly blossoms. It becomes genuinely compelling because the speaker is transitioning from abstract concepts to specific, highly personal habits and tangible benefits.
Right, they aren't just reciting a list of the app's technical features on an App Store description.
Precisely. Undeniably. They are explaining how the software physically interacts with their actual lived experience. Summarize articles, plan my week, collect ideas when I'm too tired.
These are incredibly relatable human details. They are painting a vivid picture of their daily routine.
And again, noticing the vocabulary at play here. They use the phrase reduces mental clutter.
That is a fantastic, highly descriptive phrase. It feels so much more natural and sophisticated than saying, it is very good for my brain, or it makes me think well.
It demonstrates phenomenal lexical resource without sounding remotely forced. It perfectly captures a complex psychological state in just 3 words.
It really does. Now, the final step, the reflect stage. This is where the true separation between a good speaker and an elite speaker happens.
The moral of the story.
Right. The speaker wraps up the answer by saying, looking back, I'd say it's changed the way I think more than the way I work. I feel less overwhelmed, and oddly enough, I'm more creative because my brain isn't busy holding on to small details all day.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this reflection stage shows incredible depth of thought. It elevates the entire answer from mere physical description to thoughtful, introspective analysis.
Because anyone can describe what an app does.
Anyone. But taking a step back to analyze how that app has fundamentally altered your internal cognitive process, change the way I think more than the way I work. That is the mark of a highly sophisticated, deeply mature communicator.
It's an insight.
It is exactly the kind of intellectual development that assessors reward heavily when scoring fluency, coherence, and lexical resource. It leaves a lasting, powerful human impression on the listener.
So, point. State the thing clearly and directly. Expand. Give specific, personal, lived details about the thing. Reflect. Tell us why the thing actually matters to you on a deeper emotional or psychological level.
It is a foolproof roadmap for your brain.
And the hidden beauty of the PER structure is that it acts as a guardrail against rambling. When your brain knows it eventually has to arrive at the reflect stage, it naturally guides your narrative arc toward a strong, satisfying conclusion.
Rather than just trailing off into the void with, so yeah, that's it. That's my app.
So yeah, the classic dreaded fizzle-out ending. We have all been there, and we all want to avoid that.
We definitely do.
Now, I want to ask a very practical question on behalf of the listener. This PER structure is amazing in theory. But if I am sitting in the hot seat, my palms are sweating, the examiner is staring intensely at me, the microphone is on, and my cortisol is spiking, theory often goes out the window.
It does. Adrenaline takes over.
Right. So what are some break-in-case of emergency tools I can use? How can I instantly sound more fluent while my brain is desperately trying to construct this PER structure in real time?
That is a highly pragmatic question, and it is exactly what we need to address. Theory is wonderful, but we need actionable, tactical tools for when we are under fire.
Give us the tools.
When linguists study top-tier performers, they identify specific power phrases. These aren't just fancy idioms you memorize to sound smart. They are structural tools.
Structural tools, meaning they serve a function.
Yes, they serve specific psychological and linguistic functions that instantly organize your thoughts and polish your delivery. Let's explore how to deploy them to solve common conversational crises.
I love that framing. Okay, crisis scenario number 1. The examiner asks me a massively broad question like, tell me about your thoughts on modern work environments. My brain floods with 20 different ideas. I have no idea where to start, and I'm terrified I'm going to start rambling incoherently.
Your emergency tool here is, what I like most is, or conversely, what I find most challenging is.
Like, what I like most about remote work is the freedom to manage my own schedule.
Spot on.
How does that solve my panic?
It solves it by forcing an immediate structural funnel. When you're hit with a broad question, the cognitive overload comes from trying to summarize everything at once. Starting with, what I like most is, forces your brain to abandon the other 19 ideas and narrow your focus onto a single priority immediately.
Oh, that makes so much sense. It clears the clutter.
It helps you answer directly, and sound highly organized right out of the gate. It is the perfect, decisive way to initiate the point phase of your PER structure. It subconsciously tells the listener, I have instantly sifted through a complex topic, and here's my prioritized thesis.
It's decisive. It cuts through the noise. I can feel how that lowers my own internal panic.
Let's do another one.
Okay, crisis scenario number 2. I'm deep into the assessment, and I feel like I'm just delivering a sterile academic lecture. The vibe in the room is cold. I feel like a stiff robot, and I need to humanize the interaction before the examiner tunes out.
Your tool here is the phrase, to be honest. For example, to be honest, I used to hate online meetings, but now I'm entirely used to them.
No, I used to be honest all the time when chatting with friends in my native language. But why does it work so powerfully in a formal test environment?
It works specifically because it imports that casual, friendly dynamic into a formal space. When you say to be honest, you are performing a psychological trick. You are breaking down the invisible, formal barrier between test taker and assessor.
You're making it a conversation again.
You are creating a sudden moment of conversational intimacy. It signals vulnerability and authenticity, which dramatically boost the human connection we establish as the core of true fluency.
That's fascinating.
It causes the listener to subconsciously lower their critical guard, lean in, and feel like they're having a genuine chat with a real person, rather than grading a rehearsed monologue.
That psychological shift is incredible. You are hacking the room's energy. Okay, crisis scenario number 3. This one terrifies me.
Let's hear it.
The examiner asks me a loaded question. Is social media destroying society? I don't have a clear yes or no answer. I feel like it's a trap. If I say yes, I'm ignoring the benefits. If I say no, I'm ignoring the cyberbullying. What do I do?
You deploy the phrase, it depends, really. For example, it depends, really. If it is used responsibly, it can be an incredible tool for connection. But
Now, let me push back hard on this one.
please do.
If someone asks me a direct question and my first words are, it depends, doesn't that make me look incredibly evasive? Doesn't it sound like I am just dodging the question because my vocabulary isn't strong enough to take a stance?
I am so glad you pushed back on that, because it is the most common fear students have regarding this phrase. But the linguistic reality is the complete opposite. Assessors absolutely love this phrase, provided you follow it up properly.
Wait, really? They don't see it as a dodge.
Not at all. It depends, really, is not a dodge. It is a gateway to high-level nuance.
Explain the mechanics of that. How does it show high-level nuance?
Because the real world is rarely black and white. Complex topics like technology, societal shifts, global education almost never have simple, binary yes or no answers. By boldly starting with "it depends," you are actively demonstrating to the assessor that your cognitive processing is advanced enough to recognize those inherent complexities.
You're refusing to give a simplistic answer.
Yes. You are opening the door for a balanced, multifaceted response. It allows you to explore the if this then that conditional scenarios, which inherently requires significantly higher level, more complex grammar and vocabulary than just blurting out a one-sided opinion.
Ugh, I see the matrix now. It sets the stage for a much richer, more complex expand section. You aren't avoiding the question, you are acknowledging its depth and proving you have the tools to navigate it. That is a game changer.
It's a powerful tool. Let's look at the fourth one.
All right, crisis scenario number 4. I need to disagree with the premise, or I need to state a strong opinion, but I remember what you said earlier about not sounding too absolute or aggressive. I need to soften my stance.
Your go-to tool here is, I'd say, for example, I'd say sustainability has become a much bigger priority for my generation in the last few years. This is the practical application of the hedging we analyzed earlier.
It just feels so much more palatable than saying sustainability is the biggest priority.
It is undeniably more palatable. I'd say is the elegant, sophisticated cousin of I think, or it is. It softens your opinion in a wonderfully natural, conversational way.
Rather than presenting it as an absolute fact.
Right. Instead of presenting your thought as an undeniable law of the universe, you are offering it as a considered personal perspective. It makes you sound reasonable, thoughtful, and highly proficient in managing the subtle, interpersonal tones of the English language.
It is diplomatic language. I like it. Okay, final crisis scenario, number 5. I am in the middle of a long answer. I've just presented one side of an argument, and now I need to smoothly introduce a contrasting thought or a caveat without sounding like I'm contradicting myself and losing the plot.
You need the ultimate pivot phrase. That said, for example, I absolutely love the connectivity of social media. That said, I try very hard not to spend more than an hour a day on it.
That said, it feels like a hinge in the sentence.
It is an exceptionally strong structural hinge for providing balanced, analytical answers. It allows you to present one side of an argument, or validate a personal preference, and then gracefully pivot to introduce a contrasting thought, a limitation, or a nuanced caveat.
It shows you can hold two competing ideas at once.
100%. It signals to the assessor, I can hold two competing ideas in my head simultaneously, and I possess the linguistic architecture to articulate their relationship clearly. In a testing scenario, especially in the more demanding analytical sections of an exam where you are asked to evaluate an issue, the ability to pivot gracefully using that said is worth its weight in gold.
So these 5 tools, what I like most is, to be honest, it depends really, I'd say. And that said, they really are like conversational cheat codes. They rescue you from cognitive overload and help your ideas connect smoothly instead of sounding like a string of separate, panicked sentences.
You've hit the nail on the head. They are the structural mortar that holds the beautiful bricks of your vocabulary firmly in place.
I love that. Now, having armed our listeners with these powerful tools, we need to shift gears and adopt a slightly firmer, more diagnostic tone for a moment.
Time for some tough love.
Yeah, we have spent a lot of time analyzing the good habits you need to build to reach that Band 8+ level. But building good habits is honestly only half the battle. If we want to truly elevate our speaking and rewire our approach, we have to aggressively unlearn the bad habits. We have to identify and eliminate the unconscious, score-killing traps that so many of us fall into when the pressure is on.
This is a crucial, unavoidable part of the process. You can conceptualize the PER structure flawlessly in your mind, but if your actual verbal output is constantly stumbling into these traps, the overall impression you leave with the listener will still be severely damaged.
Let's go through them. What's the first trap?
When analyzing thousands of hours of learner audio, linguists highlight 3 very common, very destructive traps. The first one is what is often referred to as the I think addiction.
This one is rampant. I hear it all the time. And to be perfectly honest, I catch myself doing it when I'm speaking a second language. I think the weather is nice. I think my job is hard. I think this movie is good. It becomes a verbal tic.
It is a highly prevalent addiction, and it stems from a desire for safety. The phrase, I think, is simple, it is safe, and it is grammatically correct.
Yeah.
The problem isn't the phrase itself. The problem is the relentless repetition. If every single sentence you construct or every single opinion you offer begins with I think, your answer immediately starts sounding incredibly monotonous and linguistically impoverished.
It sends a glaring signal to the assessor that you only have one single basic tool in your grammatical toolbox for expressing a personal opinion.
It's like a carpenter who only owns a hammer, so they treat everything like a nail.
So, what is the actionable quick fix for this addiction? How do we break a loop that is so deeply ingrained in our brains?
The fix is conscious, deliberate substitution during your practice phase. You need to actively train your neural pathways to reach for alternative phrases.
Like the ones we just covered.
Exactly. We just gave you a fantastic one, I'd say. But you need a whole arsenal. You can use personally, I feel, or from my perspective, or to my mind, or as I see it. The goal here is variety.
So just by swapping out that one repetitive crutch with a rotating cast of synonyms, you instantly elevate the rhythm of your speech.
You sound significantly more diverse and capable in your phrasing without actually having to learn complex new grammar rules.
It's a relatively small mechanical change, but it makes a massive difference in how the musicality of your speech is perceived. Okay, let's analyze trap number 2. And I think this might be the most universally terrifying one for anyone who has ever taken a language test.
Let me guess.
The frozen start.
Yes. The dreaded freeze.
I can visualize the horror perfectly. You are sitting there, the examiner asks you a slightly convoluted abstract question, maybe about a topic you have literally never pondered before in your life. Panic sets in. Your cortisol spikes. Your brain completely freezes.
Your mind just goes totally blank.
Yes, you sit there, staring like a deer in the headlights, leaving this long, agonizing, dead silence in the room, while your internal monologue is screaming, frantically trying to formulate the perfect opening sentence.
That dead silence feels like it lasts for hours to the speaker, doesn't it? As we discussed earlier with the amygdala response, it is a profound physiological reaction to stress. Your brain is dedicating so much computing power to frantically searching its memory banks for the perfect vocabulary and the perfect grammar structure that it momentarily shuts down your physical ability to speak.
But in a language assessment, that long, gaping silence is heavily penalized, right?
Very heavily. It breaks the fundamental flow of human communication entirely. It shows a breakdown in your ability to manage an interaction.
So what is the lifeline here? If my brain is frozen, how do I thaw out a frozen start without sounding like I'm panicking?
The absolute key rule is this: never let the silence take over the room. You have to buy yourself cognitive processing time, but you have to do it out loud.
Like the natural fillers we talked about.
Yes, but in the context of a frozen start, it is your primary survival mechanism. If you are hit with a brutal, unexpected question, do not sit in silence trying to build the perfect sentence in your head. Instantly deploy a management phrase.
Like what?
Say something like, "Wow, that's an interesting one," or "I haven't thought about that much before, but let me think for a moment," or "That's a surprisingly tough question, I'd probably have to say."
It is such a brilliant tactic because you are maintaining the illusion of total control. You are actively talking while you are desperately thinking.
You are maintaining the momentum of the conversation, proving your fluency and your interactive skills, all while giving your prefrontal cortex those crucial 3 or 4 seconds it needs to retrieve the actual answer. That's unquestionable. You are actively managing the interaction, which is exactly what a band 8 or 9 speaker does. You don't have to be instantly brilliant. You don't have to have a genius answer ready in a millisecond. You just have to manage the pause gracefully and keep the communicative channel open.
Which brings us to the third and final major trap, vocabulary echo. This feels somewhat related to the I think addiction, but focused more on adjectives and descriptors rather than sentence starters.
It is very similar in its root cause, a reliance on safety under pressure. Vocabulary echo happens when a speaker leans on a single, safe, broad crutch word and repeats it endlessly throughout the response.
What are the most common offenders?
When we look at transcripts, it's words like important, good, bad, nice, or interesting.
Let me role play that. Education is very important for society. Technology is also important for students. It is important to have good teachers because good teachers are important.
Ouch.
Right. You hear that and your brain just completely tunes out. The actual meaning gets entirely lost in the monotonous repetition of the word.
It creates a dull, hypnotic echo. It explicitly tells the assessor that your lexical resource is severely limited. And the tragedy is it might not actually be limited.
It's just the stress making them forget.
Absolutely. Because you are nervous, your brain reaches for the closest, easiest, safest word on the shelf and uses it over and over. The quick fix for this requires strategic preparation. You need to build what linguists call synonym families during your study phase.
Synonym families. I really like the sound of that. How does that concept work in practical application?
Let's take the prime offender, the word important, as our example.
Right.
If you know that your instinct under pressure is to constantly rely on important, you need to proactively train your brain to branch out. You build a family of related, more precise words: essential, valuable, significant, crucial, vital, paramount.
I see.
When you practice speaking out loud and you feel that familiar urge to say important, you force yourself to stop, reach into that family, and select a different member depending on the specific context of the sentence.
Let me try that. So instead of saying it is important to have clean water, I force myself to say clean water is absolutely essential. Or instead of saying my phone is important to me, I pivot and say my phone is incredibly valuable for managing my work.
You've got it perfectly. By doing that, you are actively stretching your vocabulary muscles. You are forcing your brain out of its comfort zone. If you practice this consistently, over time, you won't even have to consciously think about it during the exam. Your brain will naturally select the more precise, varied, high-level word instead of defaulting to the monotonous echo.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? If we take a step back and look at the massive amount of ground we've covered today, from ditching the Hollywood slang myth and understanding true lexical restraint, to mastering the connective tissue of the river, utilizing the storytelling power of the PER structure, deploying those 5 structural power phrases, and finally, unlearning the traps of freezing and echoing it all points to one undeniable, empowering conclusion.
What's that?
These are, at their core, relatively small, conscious, mechanical changes. We aren't asking you to go memorize a dictionary tonight. We aren't asking you to learn a completely new dialect.
Not at all.
But these small strategic shifts in how you connect your ideas, how you prioritize your thoughts, and how you manage your own brain's panic responses create a massive exponential difference in how you are perceived as a communicator.
It is the definitive difference between a speaker who is merely surviving a language test by clinging to memorized life rafts and a speaker who is actually commanding a language with confidence and grace. It is about making the profound leap from mechanical, robotic repetition to genuine human expression.
And now it is time to take all of this fascinating theory and put it into rigorous practice. We are not just going to leave you with a bunch of abstract ideas. We're going to leave you with a tangible challenge. We want you, the listener, to put these tools to work immediately before you forget them.
We have extracted 2 excellent practice prompts commonly used to assess high-level speaking, and I'm challenging you to answer them out loud today.
What's the first one?
The first prompt is designed as a shorter, rapid-fire Part 1 style question to test your immediate connective tissue. How has technology changed the way you communicate with friends?
And the second prompt is a longer, more demanding Part 2 style challenge designed specifically to test your ability to sustain a narrative using the PER formula. Describe a sustainable habit you've started recently and explain why you decided to do it.
Here is exactly how you should execute this challenge for maximum benefit. Take your phone, open your voice memo app, and actually record yourself answering these prompts.
Don't just practice in your head.
Right. Do not write out a script first. Do not practice in your head. Just hit record and speak. Embrace the discomfort. Then I want you to perform a brutal self-audit. Listen back to your recording and check for 3 specific criteria.
The self-audit checklist. Okay, what are we strictly listening for?
First, did you successfully employ the point, expand, reflect structure, especially on that second, longer prompt about the sustainable habit? Did you clearly state the habit immediately, expand on the specific lived details of doing it, and crucially, did you reflect on why it matters to you on a deeper level?
Got it. What's the second thing to check?
Second, did you successfully and naturally include at least 2 of the emergency power phrases we discussed? Did you weave in an, I'd say, to soften an opinion, or a, what I like most is, to prioritize a thought?
And the third?
And third, and perhaps most importantly, listen to the overall tone and rhythm of your voice. Did you sound natural, relaxed, and conversational? Or did you sound like a tense robot reciting a memorized essay from a textbook?
Be brutally honest with yourself when you listen back to that audio. It might be uncomfortable to hear your own mistakes, but that act of self-awareness is exactly how you build true Band 8+ skills. You have to hear the robot to fix the robot.
It really is the only way to improve. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought to mull over as you go about your day.
I love a provocative thought.
We spent the last hour talking so much about how to sound natural, flexible, and human in a second language. But consider this. How many of these rigid robotic habits, like using panicked ums and rs, or speaking in absolute unhedged statements, or relying on vocabulary echoes, do you accidentally use in your native language when you are under pressure at work or in an argument?
Oh, wow, that is a really good point.
True fluency, in absolutely any language you speak, is ultimately about mastering the delicate connection between your anxious brain and your voice. It is about emotional regulation, managing cognitive load, and structured thinking, just as much as it is about knowing the right vocabulary words.
Becoming a better, more intentional speaker in your target language might just fundamentally make you a more thoughtful, nuanced communicator in your native language, too. It is all connected by the same neural pathways. Remember, true fluency is never about sounding absolutely perfect. It is about sounding real, sounding clear, and sounding confident in your humanity. Keep practicing those structures, keep recording yourself, embrace the messy process, and trust that the mechanics will soon become second nature. Before we go, I want to ask you a quick favor. Please like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. We rely entirely on your support to keep bringing you these deep dives, and I really genuinely want you to leave a comment down below with your practice answer to one of today's prompts. I would love to see how you apply the point, expand, reflect structure, and those power phrases in writing. Keep pushing your boundaries, keep experimenting with the language, and we will see you in the next lesson.